Okay, gonna cover the getting started guide with Jets, and we're gonna build an HTML project in this video. To do that, we're gonna click on this getting started link on the top, and then we're gonna select the third option, HTML project. There are a bunch of steps here. We're gonna go through the first two one pretty briefly, and then the other ones here where we kind of get into the meat potatoes of how Jets works. I'm gonna cover pretty comprehensively. Okay. Next step here, install Jets. It's just gem install Jets, and then you have the framework installed. After that, you guys set up your AWS credentials. I have another video that explains how to do this, so I just linked out to that video, but this is the way I recommend setting up your AWS credentials. Next step here is new project. So this is where we're gonna actually start building some code here. So Jet's new demo, I'm just gonna grab that part. That's the only part I actually really need here. And then run it. So what that does is it generates a starter Jets project with basically the boilerplate all stuff kind of built. And then also you can see it did bundle install, and then it's running Jets import map too. So Jets is actually using import map here. And then in here, we're gonna go down and actually look at the first file is config application to RB. So this is just where you would configure your application kind of default settings and everything. And you can see that the project name is configured here in mode HTML, and there's some links here to kind of more documentation on the settings and everything. Now I want to show you the environments folder because you can actually configure your environments on a your settings on a per environmental basis, like in development and production. And basically, whatever Jets env is set to, this is what's going to be applied after it evaluates this kind of file here. So you can see that's how you do that. Step is review the project. So now we're actually looking at some code. So let's actually look at app controllers and then application controller. So we look at that, you can see just there's application controller that inherits from Jets controller base. So in general, all your other controllers inherit from this application controller. So that means if you have like common methods, you want to put them in here essentially. And then now we're going to actually generate a scaffold. So we're going to generate basically a post scaffold. Well, I got CD into the project first there. And then we could generate the post scaffold here. And what that's going to do is generate like a post basically controller right here. You can kind of see, basically has all the CRUD actions here. You can see there's a before action, and then there's an index where it loads all the posts, a show, new, create, basically all that stuff. Pretty straightforward there, hopefully. And then next step here is we do the migration. So as part of the scaffold generator, it generated a DB migrate right here. So this is going to create this table. Now I already have a database, so I actually have to drop it. So let me do that quickly. And then I'm actually going to go back to the steps here, which basically is saying you have to do db create, db migrate. So now I have a clean slate, db create, db migrate. So that's going to both create the database, and it's also going to run this migration right here. That's going to create the post table. Now, we need some test data. So this is what this example is about. It's basically saying just create db seeds here. So new file seeds, and that's plural. And then save that, and then you run jets db seed. Okay. And that should actually go post create it here. And then what we can do after that is Jets runner and then post count. Okay, I'm just putting it out just to verify that I actually created 2 records here, and you can see 2. That's basically what these instructions are saying. Now we can start up a Jets server and basically do some testing. So once this is loaded up here, we can actually see there's the URL right here, so we can actually just open that up. And then there's the home page. Now post. You can see here's all the CRUD actions here, so you can go in here. You can basically go edit one maybe and update post. That's cool. You can create a new post here. Post 3, create post, edit one more time, I guess. Edit there, update, and then I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna delete it. Click on that. Are you sure? Yes. Destroy. And while I've been editing, it actually is logging here on the terminal. So I think that covers that step on this documentation. Yeah, so now next is actually we're going to deploy to AWS Lambda, so that's pretty cool. So to deploy to AWS Lambda, we actually need a database that Lambda has access to. So for that, I recommend setting up the RDS database. It's a little bit out of scope of this video to do, so I have another video actually that kind of shows how to do that. Or if you kind of just have one database lying around already, you can kind of use that. And you need that because AWS Lambda is running on AWS servers, not ours, so it's not going to have access to our local database server here. Then you want to configure environmental variable here, database URL. And I kind of show you how that works here. It's under config and database YML, and you can see database URL right here. So that's what we're kind of configured. So for this video, I've already set up a database. I already have a test database here. So I'm just gonna actually grab that, and then an env. So you could throw an env file here in the starter here. You can do that. But what I'm gonna actually do is I'm gonna create another env file called .env.development for the environment and .remote. So this is only gonna be used when we deploy the essentially AWS Lambda, because I don't want this database URL to kind of interfere with my local database here. So that's kind of a neat trick to kind of have separate databases when you have the same environment. Just basically it's .remote. So that should do that, and now we can actually deploy now. So I'm just grab the deploy command, Control C that, and run Jets deploy. So what's that going to do is that's going to basically build a bunch of CloudFormation templates, because Jets underneath the hood uses CloudFormation templates to deploy our resources here. It evaluates your code and it translates some of that code to basically AWS resources, whether it's a AWS Lambda function or API gateway. It basically automates that process for us. The first thing it's doing right now is actually creating S3 bucket. You kind of see right here, because it actually needs to store our code somewhere also. So it's going to create an S3 bucket, and then once that's done, it's going to then zip up our code, then upload our code to this S3 bucket, and then actually deploy to CloudFormation again, and then deploy all our resources by, again, evaluating our code. So that's what it's kind of doing right now. Oh, you can also see actually, oh, this is pretty neat too. It also pre-compiles your assets. So usually when you take like your app to production, you have to kind of set up some type of script to compile your assets and then upload to some basically server. But here, Jets is gonna handle that for us and upload to that same S3 managed bucket and make sure that's servable actually. So you can see that's it did that already, and now it's actually on the step where it's kind of updating the stacks and basically deploying our code. We should actually look at the console. So let me open that up, the CloudFormation console. So I'm gonna go to AWS here and click on CloudFormation. There we go. And now you can see CloudFormation is loading. You can see it created that already, and now it's updating it, and now it's creating some API gateway resources, and it's creating basically Jets. And it does this in kind of separate stacks actually to get around CloudFormation quota limits and all that. So you can actually create pretty much as many resources as you need to. Then I'm looking at right now the demo Jets controller, and I'm looking at basically this demo dev controller here, because the way Jets works is basically your requests are going to all route to this controller, and then this controller is going to basically handle everything for you. Now this is only for controllers. For jobs, actually discrete functions are deployed. I covered that in the jobs video, but for controllers, it's basically this one Lambda function. So let's actually take a look at the Lambda function. I think that's what we're kind of doing right here in this next step actually. So we're already in this step right here. We're reviewing the deploy. We're going to look at CloudFormation console. We're looking at API gateway. We're going to look at the Lambda console. We're going to do some testing, and we're going to test maybe with the browser too. So this is basically what you're going to see in the AWS Lambda console. And what it is actually you're seeing the handler. So the handler is what Jets actually generates also. But all you have to know is basically Jets process is going to route to essentially this controller right here, the Jets post controller. And the reason why Jets generates a handler is because AWS Lambda expects a certain interface. The handler makes sure that you're going to match the interface that's essentially required. So basically this handler is going to route to this controller, and all you have to do is think about in terms of controller actions, which is pretty nice. Let's see, I was supposed to look at CloudFormation console and then API gateway. So let's actually go back to CloudFormation here, close this one out right here, and then I'm going to look for API gateway. And under resources here, if you click on here, it takes you to the API gateway, actually REST API right here. So that's I think the easiest way to get to it. You can see here's the API gateway, and then you can kind of see, click on this, and you can see that it routes to our basically demo dev controller right here. It's kind of perpendicular. So that's how it kind of all works there. Then Lambda console, I think, let's see, we looked at that already. I explained the shim. Then I'm just saying that it goes to actually that, and then we could test. So we could actually test the Lambda function with the console. Now testing with the console is not something I normally do. I usually just test actually with the browser and curl and all that. But you can do it with the console. And if you have to get to this level of debugging, then you're going pretty low level here. But what you have to do is actually send a event payload to the Lambda function. That's what API gateway would send to the Lambda function. Because the way it works is your request comes from curl or your web browser. That goes to API gateway. Then in turn, API gateway sends a request down to the Lambda function. So what we're doing is we need to figure out what the API gateway structure is, and then we need to send that to Lambda functions. That's what I'm doing in this example payload. So this is like the minimum structure kind of that you kind of need. So I'm going to save this test payload here. I'm going to click test, and then what it's going to do is going to execute it, and then it should show basically the result. So the result here, there's status code, body, and then headers, and kind of is base 64 encoded. This is what's called the AWS Lambda proxy structure. It's what Lambda returns that back to API gateway, because that's what API gateway expects. Again, we're doing pretty low level testing here, but in your day to day, you're gonna basically just be testing via curl or web browser here. But I just want to show you how it kind of works, so you understand how it works underneath the hood. So we just covered all that, and you can look at the logs in Lambda too if you want. Testing with the browser. So I'm actually testing with the browser now. So after it deploys, see, it finished on CloudFormation, and then actually spits this out right here. So you actually click on that, and that actually takes you to the API gateway resource or endpoint, and then you could hit I guess type in post here, and then now this is actually all API gateway. You can see in the URL here. You can go here and create a new post. This is like what we did locally. Create post, and then go edit, and you can go edit maybe right there, update post, go back and click destroy, and click destroy, and that's kind of good. Oh, and I wanted to show you while I was kind of doing that is you can actually log CloudWatch logs and stream it here also. So I already kind of did that, but actually what I can do is I can curl again. So I'm going to see that. Okay, so that's the request come. So that I ran. So I'm going to do a curl of that and then go to post. Okay. So we're going to see there's the HTML page there on the right hand side here, any second here. And see the logs kind of going from our request all the way to Lambda to CloudWatch and back to our terminal here. So you know it's all asynchronous, so it does take a little time here. But so you're going to see the request kind of coming here, right there. See? So that's the one that I just ran. So that's pretty good. Let's see what else. Review, deploy, post, next step. So here we're saying we're going to change the Lambda function. And so I'm going to show you basically live kind of changes, changing your server or code live. It's not really server code, right? Or actually, eventually it's server code, but just AWS is managing the server. So here we're going to go here into the Lambda function itself and find what I was supposed to do is type this guy, puts debugging index call. Sure, let's run that. And let's throw it right here. So I'm actually, pretend this is like you modifying a server, like live. That's kind of how it works. And you click that deploy button, and it deploys out your Lambda function here, right? And now I click test here again, but except I'm not going to do it with the payload. I'm going to do it actually with curl request. So what I did was just add a put statement there. So I'm going to actually curl it one time. Now I expect to see a put statement here. So there, the request came back there, and then now you can see a put statement kind of in a second once this log comes from a CloudWatch here back here. So you see, and that's the put statement. I just added live basically on the Lambda function. So it's really neat. So now what I say here is, oh, this is where I introduced the jets logs command, which I've been using. And then I'm saying that we should also just go ahead and update, make sure the code on your source code actually matches with what's on Lambda. What I'm gonna do is actually make a slight change by adding again here, just so you can see that our changes are being deployed out. And then we're gonna just deploy here. So that's gonna deploy it one more time, because what it basically just does is it codifies the process of creating Lambda functions and creating API gateway, so you can actually deploy out in like a manage and control fashion. So and it basically translates something that looks very much Rails-like here, right, to basically AWS Lambda. So now it's deploying out, because usually what happens is what I do is I check on CloudFormation while that's kind of happening. So I refresh here. You can see it's updating here. You can see that basically the Lambda function is updating progress. So once this goes to update complete, what we're going to see is we're going to refresh the Lambda console, and you're going to see it's going to overwrite my manual change with the additional word again, just to so we can see. Okay, so see the difference. So you can see that's update complete. Go back here, refresh here. So right now it says debugging without the again right here. So once I refresh this, it is going to show again. Refresh is loading here. Any second now, it's gonna load. Then it pops up saying, "Hey, we made some changes." Yes, because we deployed via CloudFormation, via Jets deployed, and say debugging again. See, now it's different. So that's really good. So that's basically kind of done. Now CloudFormation is still kind of updating the API gateway resources and everything like that. It's just kind of finishing and cleaning up. And then once it's kind of finished and cleaning up, then we can actually go next step. But there it goes. So that got deployed out. And now next step is, let's see, update project, scroll to the bottom here. Next step is just just delete. So we're gonna actually clean everything up now by running just delete. So you run just delete here. First, it's gonna prompt us, are you sure you want to delete everything? It's a Y enter. And what it does now is it's going to clear out our S3 bucket that is storing our Jets code and our artifact and everything, or basically our app code, right? And then it's going to delete essentially the top level main CloudFormation template, and then in turn that deletes all the other child templates actually. So now it's basically deleting everything. So we can actually go back to CloudFormation here, just so you can see what's kind of going on. You refresh here, you're going to see a bunch of deletes. See, it's deleting progress here. You can see the events here. Deleting that, and then now it's starting to delete all the other basically resources here. So all the Lambda functions, basically the API gateway is going to be all deleted nice and cleanly. So that's the nice thing about codifying the processing, everything. You can actually manage it and kind of clean it all up very neatly. So it's just going to take a couple moments here to kind of finish deleting. So I think I'm just going to wait for this. Should be done pretty much any second now. But there you go. And so it's finishing up. It deleted there, and let's confirm that's gone here in CloudFormation land. Yep, and then all the Lambda functions and everything else is also gone. I'll refresh here. API gateway is also gone. So let's wait till that is gone. So, yep, can't find it. And then API gateway, you kind of go here and refresh here, because these are all stale browser windows, and that's also gone. So now we're back to a nice clean state. So that takes us through the Getting Started guide for Jets with the HTML project.